Hi, everybody. So next week we are going to be going over skills assessment number one that we'll cover in class. So it's important that you have the article read so that we can go over that. So part of skills assessment number one, this is like really crucial in this course. In other words, what we're going to do is we're going to work backwards. We're going to take an article and we're going to break it down and outline it. It's important then that you understand what a topic is, what the main idea is, what supporting details are, and really what the major and minor details are. So that's the basis of this course. From there, we will go on to write summaries, and then we will continue on to write some larger papers. But for right now, we're going to look at paragraph structure and the structure of an article. So the first thing I want to look at is identifying the topic. So in other words, the topic can be stated in a short word or phrase. Really answers the question, what is it? In other words, what is the reading, the paragraph, or the article really about? Often it's revealed during survey and annotating, which we'll look at a little bit later. And the topic in a textbook is usually the title of the chapter. There are always subtopics or smaller topics that appear as subheads. But it's important that you know that a topic is just really a word or a phrase. And topics can either be just right, too broad, or too narrow. And that's what I want to look at right now. So I want you to think of the topic as an umbrella. An umbrella has to be a certain size. Umbrellas could be sometimes too small or too narrow. Sometimes they could be way too large. And you really want to find an umbrella that is really just right. So let's look at an example of a topic that would be in terms of an umbrella that's too narrow. And if we have the places Burger King, McDonald's, and Hardee's, and Taco Bell, and we gave it the topic of burger joints, this would be too narrow because Taco Bell really is not a burger joint, so it doesn't fall underneath that umbrella. So that would be an umbrella for a topic that is too narrow. So let's look at an example of a topic that would be too broad. So again, we'll use our burger joints here, but let's throw in the topic and call it restaurants. Well, there are many types of restaurants. And so we also have Pizza King, Applebee's, Texas Roadhouse. All of those are restaurants as well. So restaurants is way too broad. It doesn't really adequately describe just Hardee's, McDonald's, Burger King, and Taco Bell. So we want to find a topic that's just right. Again, we're only looking at McDonald's, Taco Bell, Hardee's, and Burger King. Burger joints doesn't work because Taco Bell is not a burger joint. However, if we call these fast food restaurants, that would be an example of a topic that was just right because all of these are fast food restaurants. Restaurants in general encompasses, as we saw, many other forms, but these are specifically fast food restaurants. So that's an example of trying to find the right topic. So I've given you a practice to do, which you'll see at the end of the video, where you're going to identify the topic, and you have to do the same thing. You have to decide whether it's just right, too broad, or too narrow, too specific. So keep in mind, even though we're skipping around in the book, chapters 1 and 2 are the chapters on the quiz. So you want to keep the idea of topics and main idea in your head because that'll be necessary to know for the quiz when it comes time for quiz number 1, which is chapters 1 and 2. I want to move on from topic really to the idea of main idea because main idea and supporting details is really what you need to know in order to be successful for skills assessment number 1. And it really is the building block and the foundations of this course. And that's why we start with this and then everything builds on that. So let's take a minute to review then some of those terms from chapter 3. So what exactly is the main idea? Well, the main idea is the most significant idea in a paragraph, article, or even a textbook chapter. Understanding this is crucial for comprehension and interpretation. So you will have to be able to figure out what the main idea is in order really to understand what the reading is about. Another word for a main idea, or another term, is claim. And the claim is the main idea. The author makes a claim on the topic. And what is important to note about the claim is that it is an assertion or statement that might be open to challenge or disagreement. So in a longer piece of writing, a claim is called a thesis. So you probably have heard from your English teachers in the past that you need a thesis statement. Well, the thesis is something that you have to be able to disagree or argue with. It is not something that is accepted automatically. In other words, you can't use a fact and say water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius, because that's not debatable. So we want to have a claim or a main idea or a thesis that is somewhat debatable, that not everybody is going to always agree with. So there are two types of main ideas. The first is called a stated main idea, and we're going to come back to that a little bit later, but you just kind of need to know this for now. And the other one is an unstated or implied main idea. We're going to only really concentrate on the stated because for a skills assessment number 1, it pretty much is stated in the article that you're reading. In other words, if it is stated, it's a topic sentence. But please be very careful. The topic sentence doesn't have to be the first sentence of an article or the first sentence of a paragraph. It can come anywhere. It can come in the beginning, it can come in the middle, or it can even come at the end. So you want to be careful when you're reading that you don't necessarily take that first sentence and say that's your main idea or the topic sentence. Remember what we just talked about. A topic is summed up in a word or a phrase. It's not a sentence, but it's what the paragraph or the writing is mainly about. In other words, it's the controlling idea. Everything centers around that particular topic. So how does the author develop his topic? Well, he uses details. So he's got his topic. He then has his main claim or idea, and then he uses details for support. These help develop his writing, and he elaborates upon the main idea in using these details. The details answer the questions of who, what, when, where, why, and how. There are two types of details used by authors. There's major details and minor details. And your job is to kind of figure out what is the difference between the two. Major details tend to be larger and more broader statements in support of the topic and the main idea. Minor details tend to be very specific. They're dates, numbers, facts, statistics. These are usually not necessary when summarizing a piece of writing. In other words, for skills assessment number 1, you only want to look for the topic, the main idea as a sentence, and then you want to look for only the major details. You do not need to include any of the minor details. When it comes time to writing the summary, you basically are going to use the graphic organizer that you've used for skills assessment number 1, and you're going to write a paragraph just using that information. If you use that organizer, you actually will be leaving out the minor details and not including them in your summary. So for a little bit of help, there are some practice exercises that I would like you to do. Practice 2-4s on pages 38 and 41, and I only want you to do those numbers that you see here. The other is practice 3-6 on page 71. And you could do actually just do numbers 1 and 2. We'll do the other ones a little bit later when we talk about chapter 3. But if you just do numbers 1 and 2, make sure you look at the model, which is the sample or the example, so that you understand exactly how to do this. So that pretty much covers everything that I needed to get through from chapters 2 and 3. Again, chapter 1 you will have read. Hopefully you've done the notes. Use the notes organizer. We will go over any questions you have about chapter 1 next class. Make sure you read the article, because that's what we're going to be using to practice the skills assessment. So you need to have the main idea. So what you should do is go through that article now and kind of look for what you think the main idea is, what is the topic, and what are the major details. You should find at least 3 major details. And then you want to look for the things that support that, the other details of support. All right. But if you start thinking about that now, we'll go over that in class on Tuesday. You have pretty much a good understanding of what is necessary for skills assessment number 1. So that's it for today. I hope you have a good rest of the week. And as I said in my announcement, if you have any questions, shoot me an email. All right. Bye-bye.